Okay, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us this evening for this South Coast Interfaith Council Religion 101 series. We have a great opportunity to hear from uh, clergy and members from the Garden Church in San Pedro. And so that's a great, exciting opportunity. And so we'll get started, and I will leave it to our hosts, speakers, to offer any kind of invocation or put the presentation, and then I'll make sure that you should be able to share your screen, and just make sure to, if you're going to share any video, make sure to click the right buttons there to share the video and the audio, and then we'll have a good quality view for everyone else. So
You're muted, Connie.
Sorry about that. From Psalm 65, lines 9 to 13. You visit the earth and water it. You gently enrich it. The river of God is full of water. You provide the grain, for so you have prepared it. You water its furrows abundantly, setting its ridges, softening it with showers, and blessing its growth. You crown the year with your bounty. Your wagon tracks overflow with abundance. The pastures of the wilderness overflow. The hills gird themselves with joy. The meadows clothe themselves with flocks. The valleys deck themselves with grain. They shout and sing together for joy. At the Garden Church, we embody this sentiment, and tonight we're happy to shout and sing together for joy.
So I guess I should begin. Tonight I've been asked to talk about the eco-friendly program that is part of our Garden Church in San Pedro. And it starts really with the dream of a young woman who was just ordained a Swedenborgian minister, Anna Woofenden. That was 9 years ago. She knew she wanted to plant a church in a garden. She was inspired by the Swedenborgian, theme, one of their major tenets. In fact, their name, the Church of the New Jerusalem. The idea being that, Anna's understanding, at the beginning in the Garden of Eden is a tree, the tree of life. And at the end of the New Testament, there is a garden, this New Jerusalem, and there is a tree in the middle of this beautiful city in which there is peace and water for everyone and light for everyone. And it's just, the song, "Oh, what a beautiful city." And so her idea was to establish a church in a garden and to bring to reality the New Jerusalem, the tree of life in the middle of the garden. And so she found this place in San Pedro with the support of her church, which has an establishment here as well. And it's an empty lot. I've lived here a long time, and it was always a dusty, empty lot. And she rented it, and she had friends who supported her idea and helped her with this. And it was a garden established by a friend whose name is Laura Huey, who laid out all the gardens, the plots, the beds. The beds had to be raised beds because this ground, as so often the case in the city, especially a port city like San Pedro, the ground was contaminated and we couldn't grow organic or safe vegetables there. And so they raised beds, they brought in the soil to start this garden. And Laura ran the garden for a couple of years. And then she had to go on to her own enterprises. And there was a meeting was called, who would like to gather and consider how we will run this garden? And there were 3 of us who showed up at that meeting. And at the end of the discussion, what we would do, we were all in agreement that we would come the next Tuesday and begin taking care of this garden that did not have a lead gardener. And on that Tuesday, I was the only one who showed up. And so for the last 8 years, I've been waiting for them. I don't think they're going to show up. So now, by default, I've been the lead gardener there for the last 8 years. And very, very happy to be there. The inspiring thing is how in this garden, in the central part of the garden, we meet on Sundays for worship. And the opening prayer includes a reference to this tree of life in the garden. The tree which has fruits for every month of the year and leaves there. Connie is holding up the icon of the tree of life that we use, and has fruits for every month of the year and leaves for the healing of the nations. Who would not want to work for that goal? Fruit for everybody, every month of the year, and leaves for the healing of the nations. And so the mission of this organization was established as to feed and be fed in body, mind, and spirit. As time went on, not very long after, it was clear that we needed an organization to run the garden and an organization to run the church. So we have the church, and now we have Feed and Be Fed Garden, and we also have another plot now called Feed and Be Fed Farm. We're sister organizations. We're like identical twins, or maybe non-identical twins, right? Same mother, same purpose, same blood, same goal, yeah. So our mission is to feed and be fed in mind, body, and spirit. We care for people, we care for the earth, and we care for the future. So this grew into an organization that has sustainable agriculture and uses no pesticides or anything like that. And we are dedicated to feeding the local community. Anna, when she began this church, did not really think that this garden would be a garden surrounded by people who are in real need of food, real need of community, real need of church. But here we are in downtown San Pedro, right in the center of the homeless community in San Pedro. And so our feeding in body really serves the community of people who are in need of food. One community who is in need of food are the people who shop at the farmers market. At the farmers market on Fridays, people who have money to shop at a farmers market and people who don't have money, who have what is called supplemental nutrition assistance. They get help to buy, they're called EBT dollars, and they get help to buy food at the farmers market. And a lot of our income from the farmers market is from people who use EBTs to buy it. And a lot of it is also from the local folks who want fresh produce. We are the only organic produce grower at the farmers market. So we serve a need that is unique and important to the local community in that way. We are a registered organic organization, registered with the California Food and garden and Farmers Gardens organization, and we sell a lot of herbs and everything that's locally grown. We sell at the garden, at the farmers market. Another way we feed the local community is in our Sunday meals. After our worship on Sundays, we worship at 4 o'clock on Sunday afternoons. After that, we serve a meal and the gates are open to anyone who wants to come and eat. We can't serve only our produce. We raise fruits and vegetables. We don't have rice and chickens and so on. And so local organizations like local churches provide much of the food that we serve on the Sunday at the Sunday meal. I would like to see it include more of our organically grown produce, and we're working towards that goal as time goes on. And at this meal, Anna's vision was, we are one community. We are not only feeding in body, we are feeding in spirit also. And the local community needs a real community, a community that shares food, a community that shares conversation and friendship, and that meets. We noticed when it began that people didn't know each other when they came to the Sunday meal, and it was kind of quiet and shy, and then we all sat down together at the picnic tables. Everybody eats together, the ministers, the volunteers, the people, the gardener, everybody who's part of the church, and everybody who's from the street sit down and eat together. And everyone serves themselves. We're not the ones who have, giving the ones who have not. Anna insisted on this. We don't serve the food at the Sunday meal. Everybody serves themselves. And so we sit down to eat together. And we noticed after several weeks, maybe a few months, that there was friendship. Hi, haven't seen you since last Sunday. Or what happened since you, all this kind of conversation that shows a community is growing. A community of people who know each other, are comfortable with each other, and are glad to see each other at least once a week in the garden. And that is a kind of food for the spirit that developed unplanned, just as it happened. We also feed children and young people. Children come in the garden once a week. It's part of our educational goal too. We feed and be fed in mind, in body, mind, and spirit. So the mind part, little children, toddlers, come into the garden once a week for an hour and a half, and they come with their caretakers, and they have a section of the garden which is all their own, and their leader makes sure that there are strawberries there, and there are carrots that the kids can pull, and they're very excited to pull out carrots and run over and wash them in their little water pump that shows how you can conserve and recycle water. So there's a water pump. You pump with your foot, and the water comes out the top, and it goes back in and goes back to the bottom to refill itself. It's not for drinking, but it's recycled for washing their carrots. And they also grow peppers and basil. And then in the middle of the summer, when everything is ripe, they harvest all of this. And with the help of the adults, they put it on a pizza. And with the solar ovens, they put cheese on it, and they warm it up, and the cheese melts in the solar ovens. And they have their little, they call it their pizza garden. So the little children also learn that some of the flowers are edible. And they run around and find the edible flowers, and they taste them. There's one beautiful edible flower called borage. It has a little blue flower, and it tastes a little bit like cucumbers. And it's a delicacy for gourmet cooks to serve edible flowers on their salads. And so the kids know about the edible flowers. And it is an education for them to get their hands in the dirt. There is a whole trough, we call it, a big 4-foot long, great big container full of soil. and they can plant anything there they want. They plant little plastic dinosaurs, they plant seeds, they have some sunflowers coming up. So they learn from this experience they're being fed in mind and body and spirit. We also produce produce that goes to feed and be fed. Not feed and be fed, to Meals on Wheels. So you probably know what Meals on Wheels is, an organization that provides meals to people who are shut in. They're a charitable organization. They do get grants to sustain themselves, but they really need help. So when we have food that comes back from the farmer's market that we didn't sell, most of it goes to feed and be fed. Most of it goes to, that was my own phone. Most of it goes to Meals on Wheels. And they in turn reward us with bringing the remains of the food they prepare. They bring us the carrot peelings and all those things that you have left over when you're producing food, and we make that into compost. Also, the farmer's market, the next booth to us, has a lot of produce. It's Friday, so maybe they have one farmer's market on Saturday, or maybe their produce has been on their truck for all week, and they have a lot of it that they can't use anymore. And so they give us big boxes of leftover vegetables, which we compost. And some of it is good, and we give it to Meals on Wheels. A lot of it is very good. So it's a big cycle in that way. We produce 350 pounds of produce each year that we take to the farmer's market. Then I mentioned compost. We have a compost program in which we get this compost from the farmer's market. We also get compost from the local community. People have learned now, they like what we're doing, they want to contribute to what we're doing, and they will bring their produce, they'll save it in the freezer for a week and then bring all those potato peelings and the tomato that went rotten and all of that kind of stuff. They'll bring it to us on Friday when we're collecting it, and we make produce out of it. And we also have produce making worms, so we feed all of them too, and the kids love those, to dig in the produce bin and see the worms. And we also now are doing an experiment with a company that makes and sells biochar, which is a sustainable way to use forestry products. And I don't know if you know what biochar is, but in brief, it's a low-fired charcoal that produces no methane and no carbon dioxide. And so it's a sustainable way to produce material that helps the compost, and that is also, it also holds water and promotes microbial growth in our compost and also in the soil. So it works towards renewing the soil in the garden. So we're working with that as well. So we produced 2,863 pounds of compost last year this way, and we fertilize our own garden with that. So we are modeling. I forgot to mention the other group that comes in and is educated by us, and that is the local high school community. We have high school kids who are taking career technical education, and when they study environmental science, they come in for 6 hours a month and work in our garden, helping us and learning about sustainable gardening. And also walk-ins, people who just want to be in a garden that is peaceful, that is serene, that is welcoming, where they can sit down and have their lunch, where they can talk with each other, they can get their hands in the dirt sometime, they can walk around and see all these things that are gardening, and they can learn that if they have no more than a driveway, they can have a small raised bed and raise something, a tomato plant, some cilantro, whatever it is that they want to. You can grow sustainable organic food in the city. So we practice food justice, and we have made a film to educate the public about what we are doing. And it's a 13-minute film called Grow. And I would like to show it to you now. So it means that I'm going to share, click this share screen. I'm not sure I've got the audio right, but I'll share the screen and go to this garden on I might need help. So how am I going to find this on my own screen? Oh, I think I have to minimize my screen and click on here. It might take a look. Can you hear me? Oh, good.
We can hear it, but we can't see it.
You can't see it. Okay, what do I have to do so you can see it?
I think when you share your screen, you have to click. There's a little button on the bottom that says "Click to share video." You see that?
No, I have to minimize and I have to. I'm getting lost here. I might not be able to do this.
I think it's here. As I pull it up, you want to click on like a window. If you have your video in a window,
I've lost. I can see you, but I can't see anything more on.
Yeah. So I'm just explaining. You want to click share screen, click window, select the window, and then click on system audio.
I can't see those. I've lost.
I know.
I've lost Zoom. Okay.
Try it now.
No, okay. No, I haven't got it. I'm sorry. I guess we'll have to skip the video. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Now, if I can get back to the Zoom meeting, maybe you can help me do that.
If there's an icon on the bottom, Linda, like near the bottom of your screen, click on that where it says Zoom again, and then you might be able to see more.
If you move your mouse, you'll see the bottom.
I see Zoom.
Okay, click on Zoom.
Okay, I've got Zoom, and I can see you now, Connie.
Oh.
Yeah.
But
share screen.
I can't see anybody else.
Huh.
Move your mouse and then click share screen, and then you can select window and the window that has your video, and then click also share audio, and then share.
I would be happy to do that if I could get back on Zoom.
Well, maybe you selected select the window on your computer that has Zoom, because you're on the call. Nothing's changed, or you're on the Zoom.
Yeah, we see you just as we did.
I can see whoever is talking, but I cannot see the whole screen on Zoom, and so I can't.
If you move your mouse, it should open. It should show those. Did that work?
No. I'm clicking on Zoom, and I have a big message, a big word Zoom, a white screen with a big blue Zoom on it.
Is Peter around to help you?
No, he's not. Okay, now I'm back on this. Now let me try it again. So if I share the screen at the bottom, you said there's another button that has audio?
So after you click share screen,
yes,
at the top there are options, and one is window. So click on the word window. It will show the windows on your computer. Click the one that has your video. And then at the bottom, there's a little button that says also share audio. And then you can click share on the bottom.
Okay,
a few things to do.
Can you see it now?
Yes, it's coming up. Yeah, now we see it.
Oh, good. Thank you so much.
Good job, Linda. This is a great video.
Good job, but thank you for helping me.
the concrete, brick, and steel web that dominates our metropolis, Los Angeles, is this small wedge of green, this garden, a surprise for all who happen upon it, with greater surprises yet for those who enter to work and share the joys of nurturing vegetables and flowers.
My name is Liz Lubin. I'm a San Pedro resident, and I'm here in old downtown San Pedro enjoying the urban garden Feed and Be Fed, where I volunteer.
People helping people.
Well, I knew the place was here just because it's in my neighborhood, but I didn't really know anything about it. Once I saw the garden and understood that it was open to everyone and the people volunteered here, I thought that's something I could do.
They're under the food that I gave them last week. Guess they finished that one. Yeah, I harvested 58 pounds of compost last week from the worms in both of my bins. Because it decomposes faster.
Oh, if it's
there are
broken,
more
it's smaller.
parts of it that are exposed to the air and the bacteria. We want to make our compost as fast as we can. And at the end of 3 months, I'll show you what it's like. I think this is earth. This isn't earth. This is only vegetables. It's vegetables and leaves. This isn't quite finished, but it's on its way to being ready to put on the ground. There's not a bit of dirt in here.
The friendship began immediately with all the people here. And I also began to see the other things that go on in the garden, the community outreach, school children that come here and participate, other volunteers I've been able to meet, people that come in just curious about the garden, who come in for information. They want to grow something in their own gardens at home and they need some help. So they come in with questions. People come in to buy vegetables. There's just a lot of community activities going on. First Thursdays in downtown San Pedro when all the businesses are open, and there's a lot of, it's like a street fair. People come in off the sidewalk and listen to music. And learn about the garden, and it's everyone friendly.
We are reintroducing city folk to a very old friend. A friend they remember deep in their unconscious. A friend who has much truth to tell. A friend with some urgent messages for our time. We are reacquainting people with their faithful friend, agriculture. We have the world to live in on the condition that we will take good care of it. And to take good care of it, we have to know it. And to know it and be willing to take care of it, we have to love it. This growing space was founded by Reverend Anna Woofenden, who imagined a garden in the city, a sanctuary place open to the sky and to everyone who walked through the gates. The poet farmer Wendell Berry says sustainable communities are built on shared affection, affection for place and affection for neighbors. If we grow anything besides tomatoes and kale, it is this community building affection.
In the meantime, I get a ticket for having a bedroll on the street. What work's available, you can pay rent, but you don't have no money for food. So it's sort of a ridiculous.
I'm bringing it over.
I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world, and I am free.
I'm Connie McOsker, and I got involved in the garden because I work across the street. I work for the Grand Vision Foundation. It's a unique place where people from all walks of life can be together, from the rich and famous in town to our unhoused neighbors and everybody in between, all races, all ages. It's just a wonderful place where people can learn about gardening. A place to rest and reflect.
My name is Amanda Riley. I'm the acting co-pastor here at the Garden Church. The Garden Church was the first of the two organizations to rent this once very empty plot of land and turn it into a vibrant urban garden. So our sense of welcome is broad. It is literally all are welcome. We say it all the time. Lots of churches say it all the time. We mean it when we say it here.
I've been doing community service for the courts for about a year and a half. And I wrote a declaration, and the judge said that I could work at any nonprofit. So I thought of the community garden once I was referred here. I came over here, and Peter and Linda have been very nice to let me work in the garden. An extremely beautiful place with lots of flowers and birds and bees and all kinds of interesting colors and people that are always friendly and kind and generous and compassionate towards people like me who are also homeless and trying to find our way in society.
And here, right in the middle of San Pedro, here in the city, we have made a farm so that you guys and other people have an opportunity to see how we get our food. Food doesn't come without preparation, without work. And what we're trying to show people here is how to grow food, among other things, without chemicals. Without chemicals. A lot of food in the world today is grown with chemicals and pesticides. We're trying to avoid that because we think it's going to be healthier for adults and healthier for children as well. Did you have a question?
No, don't bees make fruit and fruit makes food?
The bees go around into the flowers and they help the flowers to make seeds. And if bees were part of our life here in San Pedro and part of the world, we would not be able to grow food the way we're able to grow it. So their bees are very, very important. And they do make a kind of food, honey. Later on, if you come back later on in the year, those tomatoes that you watered that are green are all going to be red and ripe.
I'm from Easter Seals, first of all, and we've been volunteering here for 2.5 years, since almost you opened, I believe, right around that time. And when I started, we have to find different volunteer sites, and this is their absolute favorite. We go to several different sites, and every Friday they can't wait for the garden. We wish we were open every day. And then another group comes on Tuesday, but they enjoy coming here, picking the plants or watering, whatever is asked of them, they love to do it.
We're growing plants here, but I would have to say the community, which is formed by the experience of working together, sharing information together, sharing the pleasure, the deep pleasure of watching the plants grow. It's a little bit like having kids. And the whole process takes place in one growing season. And I don't have to tell anybody who's a parent what it's like to watch your kids grow. Well, the young people and the old people who come in here and have that experience growing food, it's like raising a family.
Thank you so much for helping me get through that. Connie, you have something to say.
My turn. I've noticed so much since that movie was made, and that was only 2018.
Right.
Some people who have passed away, some businesses that are no longer on the block. But we're growing. And so first I wanted to show you the book that our founders wrote from her first couple years. This is God's Table. If you're interested, I could put it in the chat. And the stump that is depicted there, that's actually our altar. Our altar is a small stump. And it was also very important to our foundress that the religious and the secular parts of life be intertwined. So we have our parts that are on Sunday that are religious, but the secular is also welcome to wander in while we're having that experience of worship, and stay for 3 minutes or stay for the rest of the time. There's no expectation to have to believe in God in a certain way at the Garden Church, and thus people of many faith traditions have enjoyed spending time with us in our interfaith experiences. We are part of the San Pedro Faith Consortium, and we meet regularly with religious leaders who are in our town. And also, I wanted to point out that we call our garden communal and not a community garden, because the community garden has the idea of each person having a little plot of land that maybe they pay rent for and is theirs. Our idea is communal. We all plant together, we water together, and we enjoy the bounty of the harvest together. And so, as Linda mentioned, part of that worship is on 4 o'clock, at 4 o'clock on Sundays. At 3 o'clock is called work together time. And that's if someone wants to come in to do a little bit of gardening, like watering or weeding, they're welcome to do that at that time. And then they don't have to stay for church. If their interest is simply gardening, they still feel peace, and I believe a touch of spirituality. And if it's a larger group that wants to come at that time, we need to know in advance so that Linda can plan a little something more detailed for them to do. And also I should say, thank you, Linda. And Linda not only is the lead gardener, but she's also the lead musician at our liturgy that begins at 4 o'clock. And she's an expert in planning liturgy from her many years of experience doing so. And if you were to come to liturgy, you would see a basic Christian ritual, which begins with unpacking the tabernacle. We unpack a Bible and we place it on our altar. We light a candle to light the Christ, see the light of the divine in everyone who is around the circle. You saw our icon. We also have a bell that we ring that calls us into silence. And very recently, Linda pointed out at our Theological Thursdays that we weren't quite taking enough time to really be silent and allow God to be present with us. And so now we are setting a timer after we ring the bell for 3 minutes. And you'd be surprised how long 3 minutes is in the middle of a worship ceremony, where people who would maybe wonder and think, what's wrong? They're not moving. Isn't this supposed to be church? So we are very, very intentional about doing such. And we have readings from the Bible and sometimes from other sources, sometimes poetry. And then we have a sermon given, and then we transition into the liturgy of the Eucharist, so to speak. We have communion each and every Sunday. And the most beautiful experience for me is giving communion to someone who has just wandered in. They might not even know what communion is, but you are feeding them, and they have the dirtiest hands you've ever seen. And for me, that's real communion. And then from the community meal, from the sacred meal, we transition each week into this the community meal to feed and be fed. My particular love and interest in all of this is creation care. And we have the issues of climate change, which have impacted actually our Garden Church community, I would say very much in the last 3 years. Remember all those rains that we had in January and February? Well, luckily our tabernacle is in a basket and we have neighbors on the block who will allow us indoor space. So but besides the rainy season, now sometimes in the summer, we also have to go indoors because of extreme heat. And other times in between, we've had to go indoors because of extreme wind. Whereas if we were to be outside, the wind would blow our chairs and our papers, and the musicians' sound would not be proper without that. So climate change is real because, you know, even in our small little church, we've experienced it because we are an outdoor church. And so one of the items that related to climate change is being a community that is zero waste. And I'm going to read a definition that I found on the internet, because I was doing it, but I had never really, but except for preparing for this, actually looked it up to see what zero waste really is. It says, zero waste is not a simple concept. It's a comprehensive approach that challenges the linear waste management paradigm and embraces the principles of sustainability, resource efficiency, and social equity. It goes beyond the traditional linear model of the take, make, and dispose, and instead promotes a circular economy where the resources are valued and are kept in use for as long as possible. So what does that mean for us? Waste reduction. So already in the video, I noticed that we used to use paper plates. I had forgotten. And we used to use little paper cups for our grape juice. And now we use, since 2019, we've committed to using metal plates, metal cups, real silverware, and we wash each week the dishes. And so we're not creating that. We used to put it in compost, remember, Linda? But then we realized that that was making up most of the compost, was the paper, and that it couldn't really create the kind of compost we needed that would be best for the garden. So I'll start back with our Friday routine when we have that abundance, and most of it, yes, goes to the Meals on Wheels program in our town, but some of it also comes to me because I love going over and sorting through the fruits and vegetables that might not be so bad if you cut off a blemish, because I believe that it's important on Sundays to have something that is gluten-free and vegan, and also make vegetables exciting for people who may not be used to eating vegetables. I also have a ritual, I call it my Friday night with the vegetables. This is just personal, that in doing such, my hands are working, but I really use it as a time of meditation. And I will say that I've had some very good ideas. I feel that, you know, the Spirit is moving me on next steps on how to continue to be zero waste. So Linda mentioned that the food comes to us from donors, other churches in the community most of the time. And so, for example, because some of those donors would like to bring their item in, you know, aluminum trays that are disposable, and other sorts of containers. I'm really working with our donors to deliver the trays on Friday so that when they come with the food that they're going to bring us, that it's going to be in something sustainable. So we have a collection of trays as well. And then a lot of what I don't use on Friday when I'm sorting and cutting, even the scraps of parts of vegetables that we don't usually eat, like the stems of broccoli, for example, or celery leaves. I boil those things to make my own vegetable broth that then again eventually will turn up in the, you know, community meal on on Sunday. Also with fruits, I try to bake them, make them soft, because many of the people who come to eat on Sunday may not have a full set of teeth to be able to eat fruit that is crisp. Either that or I turn it into a sorbet. I'm kind of doing that for summer now because it's cool and refreshing. The other thing that we have are 3 bins marked. One is the black trash can for landfill. The other is blue for recyclables. And the third one is compost, but a different kind of compost. So there is a state measure, a state law already, 1383, that says that in the state of California, the counties need to be working toward having cities all participate in the green trash bins being not only for green garden waste as it was in the past, but also to be for food waste. So it's a bit of a challenge, although Linda says the people who bring the garden compost seem to mostly know what to do, but so that garden compost is different from the city of LA compost, which can be any food waste. So it can be that chicken bone, it can be that cheese, it can be anything left over, and any paper that food was on. So the thin kind of paper, but also pizza boxes, did you know, can go in green city bins. Now check with your cities if you're doing that at home, because your city might not be doing that yet, but the city of LA is now required to do that. So we do our best to participate in that way, but it does take a lot of communication. And I do spend a lot of time, after an event, going through the bins and putting things in the proper places, because also with recycling, besides the water bottles and the aluminum cans, the only thing that can be recycled is in the triangle, if it has a number 1 or a number 2 or a number 5. All the other numbers are no longer recyclable, or they're potentially recyclable, but there isn't a market for it. Our recycling is no longer going to China, and so thus those are not recyclable by the cities or trash agencies. So and the other hard news about recycling is that only 9% of what we actually put in our blue bins actually gets recycled. So we really are trying to move away from thinking that, oh yeah, we can just recycle it, but let's find something that we can reuse. Again, educating communities is at the heart of sustainable strategies, because people need to be aware before we can expect behavior changes. But we try our very best, and people are learning to be more sustainable, at least when they come visit us at the Garden Church. And as far as zero waste and social justice, Linda mentioned some. I wanted to add that if someone comes in and they want to just take something that day, they've just wandered in, they've never been to the garden, but they see their favorite herb. Oh, I need, mint, or whatever, eggplant, or whatever is special to them and they're excited about. We say that it's a donation-based offering, and that the motto is take what you want, pay what you can. But if you can't pay, it's okay. And we also are aware that because of food deserts in some communities, minority populations may only know fast food. And so again, we try to make those veggies exciting because they're also good for you, and promote that leftovers are not a bad thing. Leftovers are for everyone. At the end of the community meal, we do give away everything at all possible, and we've struggled to figure out a little bit which is best. A reusable container that's a number 1, 2, or a 5, because will they really recycle it? And so with that, we had a campaign where we put stickers on the plastic containers saying, bring back to the garden church, you know, to reuse. And some people do that. They bring their own plastic container. And then we also have compostable for those leftovers. But, you know, basically in that, we're trying to respect all food. We're teaching the respect for the hands that gathered the food, whoever picked that food for us, hands that maybe put the food, or maybe it was a factory, or the factory workers who contribute to putting that food in a container, the hands that cooked the food, the hands that delivered the food, all the steps and all the time that brings the food to our table, to really be mindful, appreciative, and grateful. And I say it at the announcement time at the meal, even though I sound like a nagging mom. You know, in other words, don't waste the food on your plate. Come on, commit to it. If you put it on your plate, you know, commit to it. Because, you know, yes, you could put it in the city of LA a waste, but, you know, appreciate, respect that food has been grown for you. And so those are some things. Let me take a look at my notes here. Oh, just in general, we have the miracle of the fishes and the loaves, I think, every Sunday. Sometimes I feel like there's less food, and guess what? Not a huge number of people come. And then sometimes you think, oh no, there's so much food. How am I going to give away all these leftovers? And sure enough, they trickle in at the end, and the food gets eaten. And there's also the song that we sing that goes with that theme. Linda, would you like to sing it?
There is enough. There is enough. There is enough. Oh, enough and some to share.
So we believe that there truly always is enough. And let's see. What else? Have I reached the time anyway? Or?
Oh, I think you're doing great. I mean, we're not that tight on the time, so if you have something more to share, that's great. If not, we could see if there are any questions. So you let me know if you have something else to share.
Let's see. I wrote thousands of things down as notes, but I think most of them have come out.
I have a list of things that kind of summarize what we do. We model organic, sustainable urban gardening. We practice food justice. There is enough. We compost food waste for fertilizer. We provide a sanctuary for renewal of the spirit through contact with the living and growing earth. We teach stewardship of the land, regeneration of degraded landscapes. It used to be a dirt lot. We care for people, the earth, and the future.
Yes, a lot of pastoral care happens because someone comes in sometimes and they have a struggle and they share it with someone. They share it with one of the ministers or with someone, and they are cared for in that moment.
Well, I don't have a question, but I just want to say I think what you're doing is fabulous. And I'm just very impressed with the ministry that you have.
Thank you. We love it so much.
And we're impressed too, how successful it is. We have around 880 people come into the garden in each month. That's how many people come in the gates.
That is really amazing.
Yeah.
We've had a handful of weddings, funerals, and baptisms.
And birthday parties.
We've had birthday parties. One thing that we used to do before COVID that we haven't gotten back to, which I hope we get back to someday, pretty please, is the movies that we have in the summer on environmental themes. That was a lovely thing we used to do. I know it takes money to be able to get the film.
We have a big projection screen. People can watch it as soon as it gets dusk.
Yeah.
We have popcorn and hot cocoa.
Yeah.
People come in and say, "Where's the church?"
Yeah.
Well, you're in the church. This is the church.
Yeah, we're a church where, it's not scary to go into a pretty building that's perfect and has stained glass and people feel like they're not worthy. We're a garden where we're all dirty all the time. Kids can run around in the garden during church and then come back when they want to listen to something. We're a church with a sandbox for children. We're a church where dogs can come to church. And I hope that you'd come see us.
Yeah, that sounds great. So, if you don't have any thing else to share, first of all, thank you very much for sharing all about sort of these. Really is what I was really hoping for, which was to share about the garden and about the sort of the community and the activities that surround it, as well as your worship and sort of ministering and those kind of things that you do as well to foster the spiritual side of the community. Let me open it up. Are there any questions? Anybody? We still have Father Alexi and Carol. Were there any other questions that you had? Everyone knows that I always have several, so but I want to give everyone a chance first. So,
you mentioned this garden. Where is it in San Pedro?
It's on 6th Street between Pacific and Mesa.
429 6th Street. There's a dinosaur in the front.
It's right. It's across the street from the Warner Grand Theater, big old theater.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Father Lexi. So, one question that I had in relation to the garden is so I saw you have like planter boxes and things like that, and then you have like a space. Have you had an opportunity to reach out to other sort of like community gardens? I know from experience, my Boy Scout troop, I'm a Scoutmaster, and I had several scouts help with the Redondo Beach Community Garden. And there was a lot of planning and effort to go in to sort of get it established and things like that. I mean, are there folks that will come to you for advice as to, because it's been like how long? I guess a side question is how long you've had that space. I think you probably mentioned it, but I don't recall.
Yeah, 9 years.
9 years, and we did have a Boy Scout troop to come and do an Eagle project. So we're open to that, to scouts coming and doing their project that is mutually beneficial.
It was a big project too. They raised the sides of the beds by 12 inches. So it made deeper beds. They did a huge project.
Okay. Oh, great.
Yeah, Boy Scouts,
So-
Girl Scouts, any group is welcome.
Yeah, that's awesome. So
Right now,
my question is, do you have folks that come and ask you for advice? Because I mean, that's quite a long time. That's, to be established, and you clearly in the discussion and what you shared, you have a lot of experience with, sort of what works and things like that, especially in relation to the sustainability and the sort of organic and stuff like that. I know that the folks who were the committee for the Redondo Beach Community Gardens, that's a big emphasis for them as well. And so there were a lot of aspects of the planning that, that they were, that were that weighed in, So have you had that experience, or folks coming to you and asking for your insight, advice?
often, usually not groups like, other gardens or something like that, but individuals come often to me and ask, I've got this going and I don't know why it's not working, or is this a good time to plant lettuce, or this died, what is it, or this, look at this, what's this plant suffering from? I get a lot of individuals coming and asking questions about things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so that folks can come and get sort of help, advice with their own gardens, at home and stuff like that.
Yes,
yeah, that's really great.
I'll give them cuttings, and we have a lot of seedlings around that. You plant seeds, and nature is so bountiful. You get 50, and you only have room for 10. There's a lot of seedlings around. I give people cuttings and seedlings of things to take home all the time.
Oh, I just thought of a good story. Linda, tell them about the loofah sponge.
The what?
The loofah plant.
Oh, somebody gave me, you know what a loofah is? It looks like a sponge, but it's a kind of a beige or pale yellow scrubber thing that you use on your skin, or you can use it to scour plants, scour pans. You know what I'm talking about, a loofah? Anyway, somebody brought me some loofah seeds. And will you plant them, please? Now, I've seen loofahs in Mexico and Guatemala, but I never saw a loofah growing here. I thought, this is tropical, it's not going to grow. But will you please plant it and see? I said, sure. So I plant 3 of them. And one came up. Well, I think all 3 came up, but I thought, I don't know what this is, if it's going to work or not. I planted one. I was kind of doubtful, but I wanted to be cooperative. I planted one. It grew, and it grew, and it grew, and it grew and it attached itself to the wall behind the garden it was in, and it grew all the way up to the top of the 2-story building, and had these huge, 18 inches long, these melons that hung off of it, and they look like zucchini, but when you touch them, they're very light, and all there is this very thin skin with a little bit of flesh inside, and this wonderful skeleton inside. It's like a cactus skeleton. It's fibrous. And so you wait until they start turning brown, and you peel that green stuff off, and you have this wonderful loofah. It entertained everybody for months and months. And that was one seed produced all those loofahs. It was a surprise.
Thanks for sharing that story. That's really great. So I had another question, and my question was, has there been folks who have asked you about expanding or sort of replicating your success in another location, either in San Pedro in the area or in other places, locations in the South Bay?
Yes, there is a Los Angeles Unified School District area behind Home Depot, which is on Gaffey. If you know the area, you know where I'm talking about. And behind that there is a 3 or 4 acre plot that is called the Science Center. It's been LAUSD, it was a center for kids to come, students to come and see animals. They had donkeys, they had sheep, they had chickens, they had pigs. It was complete science center for several years. And then the administration of LAUSD said, we don't have money to run this anymore. And they got rid of all the animals, and it was just kind of an abandoned place. But there is a new director now who asked us if we would farm part of that area. And so we have now, I think, 12 or 15 beds, raised beds in there. We've had it for like 3 years, and we're growing too. And a lot of our produce comes from raising it up there. And we have a whole team of volunteers who comes in and helps us up there. And it's just been, there's an unlimited amount of space for us to expand. And we are doing it. And we're getting grants to get enough. We need to do raised beds there. It used to be an Air Force, I think an Air Force plot, and there is DDT in the ground. The DDT has degenerated into something called DDE, which is not lethal to people, but it kills animals and birds. And so we have all raised beds just like we do in the downtown plot.
Oh, yeah,
But,
that's what I was going to ask, if anything to prepare the soil and stuff like that. And basically you brought in soil, that didn't have that, those issues. So, okay, that's interesting. So this location has raised beds as well, which again speaks to what Carol said about opportunities for or Carolyn about opportunities for eco projects and stuff like that. Those are great eco projects, because you can get a lot of people like working together to build the plant boxes and stuff like that. That's what my house did over at the Redondo Beach Community Gardens, and it's just it turned out great. It's a wonderful thing, and there was a lot of community involvement as well. The city, the public works, and they actually made a lot of they got the buy-in of the mayor and the city council, and then there was all sorts of opportunities where the public works folks, even on their own time, would come in and help. Sort of they have like they have a fence around it and stuff like that, and so big like community involvement, very 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 positive type of events out of that. So that's really great. I was going to share that I know there's still areas over in that location that the Navy basically owns, and the Palos Verdes Peninsula Land Conservancy has a nursery over just down Gaffey, down from that location from where the Home Depot is.
Right.
And so they at one time, because I have scouts that volunteer there and stuff, and I've volunteered over there at their nursery. They do all like native, wild plants that foster the, Palos Verdes blue butterfly and other endangered species. Well, at one time you had to have like a Navy ID to be able to go in, and there's a guard there. And then they switched it around to where they have another entrance that the Land Conservancy folks are able to open, and have that permission to utilize space. So, yeah, that's great.
I'd like to add something. We have a soil scientist on our board. We were so fortunate to have her. And we learned together with her that if you plant sunflowers and pumpkins, they remediate the soil. They take up, you can't sell those pumpkins, eat those pumpkins, but they remediate the soil. They take the DDE out of the soil. And pretty soon, after I don't know how many years, but you can plant in that soil, food in that soil.
Oh, yeah, that's very interesting. Wow, that's amazing.
There are other plants that remediate the soil that way too.
What a
Thanks.
miracle.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I'm learning from you, Linda.
But yeah, what a cool thing. So I wanted to ask one more question relating to sort of, I guess, the garden community. So I noticed by the way, the video was really awesome that you showed. What a great video. And so and you can see from that you have a real diverse community in terms of age and stuff. You got like young children and stuff, and involved and folks retirement age and stuff like that. So do you have any and maybe you mentioned like something about Thursday, like what are the regular it sounds like you probably have like educational activities and events, and what are can you give us sort of just a flavor of sort of what your typical week is, and what are the kind of things that you do as far as the education and working with youth and young people? And I mean, the video talked about like people come in and volunteer, and all sorts of like great opportunities for people to be involved and sort of with hands-on type of things. So but I was in particular just to see, do you have like specific educational type of efforts or programs that you have sort of on a regular basis about gardening and stuff like that?
Our limitations are on available volunteers. We are open Tuesday mornings, and on Tuesday mornings, it's whoever happens to walk in. If people who want to volunteer in the garden come in and ask, "Can I volunteer? I don't know anything about gardening." So then, that's when they get taught by us, by the volunteers who've been there. This is how you do this. This is how you do that. And if they stay, then they get really good at gardening. On Fridays, though, we have 2 groups that come in every Friday. We have the high school kids I told you about studying environmental science, and they come in for about 2 hours. And sometimes there are 20, but this last year we've had 2 semesters of 12 at a time who come in and work and learn. And it's geared to educating them on all these topics, not just to plant and work, but also about sustainability, etc. And then from 10:30 to 12, we have toddlers, as I told you about, who come in with their caretakers or parents. And that's a group that's usually about 30 people, including parents and kids. And I think the parents are learning even more than the kids, because they're curious about the garden. They walk around, they ask questions of us, and they're looking over their kids, and the kids are learning too, being shown things. So that's a formal kind of education that goes on. Those 2 things happen every week. And then
I would add on the Friday with the parents that informally it also becomes, parental support for each other. Parents talk about things that are going on with their kids and challenges, and how did you get them to potty train, or that sort of parenting support for one another while they're forming friendships and while they're caring about the earth together.
And then that's right, Connie, thank you. And then once a month we have Theological Thursday. And that's when we gather now we're gathering in a bookstore, and we talk about Swedenborgian beliefs. Not all of us, in fact, hardly any of us really, if you count who works in the Garden Church and who attends Sunday, hardly anybody is Swedenborgian. But it is a Swedenborgian supported church. And so we offer, I don't teach it, I'm not a Swedenborgian. I love Swedenborgianism now that I've been there so long. I love it because it is not a doctrinal church. You don't have to profess what their statement is. I wrote it down. I don't know if I can find the statement. I'll paraphrase it. each person is encouraged to believe what is appropriate for them, what appeals to them, how they are led, and we encourage them to live according to those beliefs. I find that wonderfully broad and beautiful.
And the Swedenborgians don't ask you to denounce any previous faith tradition. That's why I call myself Swedenborgiatholic, because I was Catholic for most of my life. And then to my Catholic people, I say I'm Catholic plus.
Catholic plus, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing. So the key thing that I heard is that a big part of your methodology is very much sort of individual based, and I wasn't asking because I have an expectation that you have classes or whatever, but I do appreciate and recognize that a big part of it is sort of like working with people individually, teaching, educating through hands-on and sort of working together, and then also that I like that that's reflected in sort of the thing that Connie mentioned that was about the the parents like talking to each other and working together and things like that. So that is we have like one of the leaders in my church had gave a talk and talked about how important it is, right, to sort of minister to the one, right, minister to like each person individually, and so that's really great to hear. Thank you for sharing that.
I think Linda, don't we have the Boys and Girls Club coming this summer too?
Yeah, I forgot to mention that.
Yeah, what are they learning about?
Well, they're learning gardening and composting and all of those things, and I can't tell you exactly what the curriculum is for this coming class, which starts in July, in a week, actually.
So if you have an idea for a class that you'd like to do at the garden, we'd be open to that. In other words, we whatever comes our way, we end up hopefully saying yes to.
Right. Yes, we have a Girl Scout troop, a brownie and what's after brownies, I can't remember. Little girls who kind of want to adopt us, and they want to come in and work in our garden on a regular basis and learn. So we're trying to work out a schedule where we could do that with them.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I can tell you're very flexible in how you sort of look for those kind of opportunities to, looking for opportunities to sort of build the community and support the community and sort of, help each other. So that I can clearly recognize that. I have another question, like just a couple more questions. So really appreciate it. It's been such a great presentation, and so so to learn. There's been a lot in the news about the Wayfarers Chapel and all the work that's going on there because of the unstable land and stuff like that. Do you have people that might normally worship there that have come to the Garden Church and have been interested in participating, maybe as a result of sort of looking for an opportunity, or maybe they have another location where they're doing their worship services? But it's interesting about the one thing I didn't know about the Garden Church over the last few years that I've been involved with the South Coast Interfaith Council was that you were a Swedenborgian church. Well, we had Reverend Brown come and do a religion 101 and talk all about the that faith and community and stuff like that. And so can you just talk a little bit about clearly it was founded, but the Garden Church was founded by someone that's Swedenborgian, and it was that big part of the motivation. But what is that? Do you have that connection, with the folks who worship in PV, and sort of how do you connect to the sort of broader, I'll say, religious community through the Swedenborgian faith?
Well, Oh, do you want to take it, Linda, or I?
Go ahead, Connie.
I'll start and then you mention anything I forget. So yes, especially initially when it was first known that it was going to be closed, we've had some people from Wayfarers Chapel. Although the Wayfarers Chapel worshiping community at 10 a.m. was offered space at St. Francis Episcopal. So our Reverend Dave does a morning service with them there, and then together they have the fellowship time with the regular worshiping community of that church. But I want to say a lot of the Wayfarers are double churchers, and they go to Wayfarers in the morning and they come to us in the afternoon. Also, I want to say that the in a way we're considered sort of a mission church of the Wayfarers population, and so each month they're asked to help pay for the third Sunday of the month, to help pay for the meal. And Reverend Dave Brown is at the Garden Church as our minister once a month on the third Sunday, and he's actually the Friday main person as well. So we are definitely to that community. And before this happened, for all of those years except very recently, they contributed a larger amount that helped us pay the rent. Now they won't be able to do that.
They are the reason why Anna Wolfenden came to San Pedro, because they are there on the coast there, and they encouraged her. They encouraged her and said, "We'll help you get started."
Her motivation to outreach to the community, perhaps it sounds like that was a big motivation that allowed her, let's say, maybe to recognize the opportunity to start the Garden Church in that location that was, sort of like not being used and stuff like that. So well, that's really great.
She spent a year looking for locations, and they were actually, a very small Garden Church community, and they'd go to the beach and have church there. They'd go to parks, and all the while looking and studying and thinking about where they wanted to really plant the church. And it was a 6-month experiment. And here we are 9 years later. And I'm always in amazement that she was with us only 2 years, and then we've kept it going without her for 7 years. I mean, God is here.
Yeah,
because I don't know how we would have done it, how we're doing it, because it is a lot of work. It's like, it takes up all of your Sunday, which is good, as church should, right? But I definitely would say it's not really a day of Sabbath and rest, from bringing the food to doing the dishes after, and Linda with the music. It's a big production. It's like going camping every Sunday. You know how when you pack for camping and what that takes? That's what church is like for us.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I will share, like in my church, depending upon what your calling responsibilities are, sometimes there's been plenty of periods in my life that Sunday has been just about my busiest day, even, with church services and then other activities or meetings and ministering and visiting, folks and stuff like that, it would be busier than my day at work, so I can appreciate that. It is sort of, part of what you're, that part of that community and sort of the connectedness that you have that sometimes will make it feel like not so much of a day of rest, so to speak. So I can appreciate that. And thank you for sharing. So because that gives me a much better, clear idea of the connection you have, that, and also there's no doubt that it is a great opportunity to have that kind of outreach and sort of ministering in the community and things like that. And clearly that's a big component of it. Can you share, you mentioned that San Pedro interfaith group, and can you just share a little bit about what you sort of do? And I just did a quick search. It looked like there's maybe 4 or 5 churches. I saw the Facebook page and stuff. Can you sort of share what what sort of you do in the way of interfaith in that local interfaith group?
Sure. We meet regularly. I want to say monthly, but it might be every other month, for lunch to just talk about how we're doing, first of all, to vent and to get that sort of pastoral support from each other. And then we look to what is already going on in our community, usually. And then we look at how we can participate in whatever is going on in our community and be a presence. Like, it's really cool that, San Pedro Faith Consortium is a member of the San Pedro Chamber of Commerce. Like, how do churches all of a sudden become part of the business world? But it's important. Again, creating more connection. We participate in I want to say beach cleanups together before. We let each other know about events that are coming up, and we also participate, especially this month I'm thinking of, in the Pride events that have happened this month, and try to be a presence of love and support.
Yeah.
I'm not a minister, so I don't go to the meetings, but often, usually on Thanksgiving, we get a Thanksgiving prayer together in one of those churches, alternating year after year. We all gather, and there is a Jewish holiday where they celebrate trees. And
yes, Tu B'Shvat, we celebrated very well this year.
And the rabbi comes, and all the other Episcopal minister and all of them come, and we all pray together at the Garden Church, and we rotate like that and have services at one another's churches. And,
yes.
And they come and preach sometimes at special times. They preach at our church.
Yeah, we had a wonderful Earth Day interfaith service.
Yeah.
We spent 8 weeks studying the tree.
Right.
In our sermon series, from the roots to the trunk to the branches to the leaves to the fruit. And in the middle of it, we had the interfaith service, and each faith tradition described how their faith sees the tree.
Three figures in there. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I was going to say that, so every year, it's traditionally been the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, and this coming fall, it's going to be a week earlier. So like a week before the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. The South Bay Interfaith Group has a big Thanksgiving type, interfaith event service. And one of the traditions is always at the end is to sing the song, "The Trees of the Field Will Clap Their Hands," and that's that's a Jewish song. And so we always sing that like every year. So everybody who participates in the interfaith choir pretty much knows it by heart now, so if they've done it over a few years. So, and that's always a great event. And it is an event that's open to the entire South Bay. So it's hosted each year. It alternates among 4 different locations: American Martyrs, St. Lawrence, Temple Menorah, and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Torrance. And so it goes through that sort of cycle. But it's always like a big event, has like lots of representation from all sorts of churches in the South Bay, which of course includes San Pedro. So it's all, and the South Coast Interfaith Council always, sort of supports it as a sponsor and with other organizations. So so the other thing I was going to mention.
I've been to a couple of them, but before COVID, the Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it got involved with COVID like everything else, but but the last one we had was at American Martyrs, and it was a great event. It was really well attended, and it's always a lot of fun, and they've actually moved it a week before to because a lot of folks now, and even schools will have the whole week off, so people are traveling and stuff like that, even anytime during the week of Thanksgiving. But the other thing I was going to mention is that it's the San Pedro Interfaith Coalition. It sounds very much like a brown bag group that's in Palos Verdes, and they meet monthly for like a brown bag lunch, and they do exactly the same kind of things, right? Talk with each other, just sort of, as you said, pastorally, just sort of how's it going, and they sort of provide support and stuff to all the various clergy that participate, and I think Reverend Brown has maybe participated some in that group there that's specifically in San Pedro. So, okay,
I've been
so
to
thanks
that a
for.
couple times too, but now I have a full-time job, so it's harder to get that. It was a very good idea. But I want to say too, that a lot of that conversation is was about how many people came back to their churches after COVID, and I want to say, like our church really, besides the core members of maybe 10 or 12 of us, we don't have like a specific congregation that we can count on. It can be a lot of people, like we can have between 20 to 40 to 50 on a given Sunday, but it's not a population you can really say is your congregation, not that regular.
And as it gets closer to the time of having food, the population of the church grows.
Yeah, they're coming to eat.
Just to 5 o'clock, the more people there are in church.
But they're coming to eat, but fortunately there's opportunity for blessing and anointing and closing spirituality.
Right.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. That gives a lot of insight into, and also I think it helps us have an appreciation for, the challenges that you have, and tackle as far as, ministering to sort of your core, as you said, folks, and then also encouraging people to be able to reach out and find how you minister, and it's not always in a church service, right? Which clearly you resonate. I resonate with that. Is an important aspect of it, is that there's a lot of ministering that comes through sort of learning together, working, side by side, serving, all those kind of things. Those are important aspects of ministering, because it's sort of bringing that, those relationships into sort of folks' everyday life, and bringing people together, which gives for the opportunity to sort of, provide, sort of add to that with some, spiritual type experiences and things like that make it really rich. So thanks for explaining that.
Yeah. One more thing I'm thinking of, sorry, we're going on and on. We could go on forever, but we call ourselves a homemade kind of church. So we don't expect a perfect liturgy. We expect noise from the city, a mental health episode, any kind of accident, spilling of the candle, anything could happen, and we just keep going and don't actually want to be perfect.
Thanks for sharing that. Were there any other questions? Carol, Father Alexi? Well, if not, I just want to say thank you so much, Linda and Connie, for both sharing, this really rich, aspect of sort of what you're doing, and clearly providing a huge benefit to the community, to the I'll say temporal and spiritual life of the folks in San Pedro, and the residents and the folks, among all different walks of life and experience. So thank you so much for sharing such admirable work that you're all doing together. That really is I would say clearly a great blessing to all the folks who are involved and participate. So what we'll do is let's end. If you have some, I like so much what you shared as an invocation. If you have some kind of like a prayer or thing to share,
I do. I have a closing scripture, if
do.
that's okay.
Yes, please do.
Okay, from Romans 8:19-22. For the creation waits with eager longing for the revealing of the children of God. For the creation was subjected to futility, not willingly, but because of those who subjected it, in hope that the creation itself will be set free from its bondage to corruption and obtain the freedom of the glory of the children of God. For we know that the whole creation has been groaning together in the pains of childbirth until now. Amen.
Thank you. Yeah, amen. Thanks very much. Well, thanks everyone, and stay tuned for future Religion 101 and Religion 101 special topics. And again, a wonderful thanks to Linda and Connie and really all of those folks at the Garden Church that support you. And thank you for this opportunity to give us to learn about your community and your ministry, and what you're doing to bless the lives of those in your locality. So thanks everyone.
Visit.
Thank you.
Okay, that sounds like a great invitation. Everyone have a great evening. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.